Walk into any gun shop in 2026 and try to trade in one of these 12 guns. Watch what happens. Some dealers will say no on the spot. Others will offer you almost nothing. A few won't even let you finish your sentence. These guns are sitting in safes right now, losing value every single day. If you own one, you need to hear this before you wait too long. Number 12. Kimber 1911's Kimber built its name on the classic 1911 pistol, and for years, that name meant something. Gun owners paid extra for a Kimber because it looked sharp and felt tight in the hand. It became the gun people bought when they wanted a taste of custom quality without paying custom prices. But look behind the shine, and the story changes fast. Owners across gun forums report machining marks straight out of the box. Some found dings on the slide before they even fired a shot. One customer described opening a brand new box and finding the corner of the rail looking as if it had been dropped at the factory before it ever shipped. One buyer spent over $2,000 on a Kimber and later called the gun worthless because of ongoing feeding problems. Kimber customer service gets some praise, but even happy customers admit they needed that service more than they should have on a gun in this price range. Dealers have caught on. Many Kimber 1911s now require a long break-in period, sometimes 500 rounds or more, before they run reliably. That's not something a shop wants to explain to every customer walking through the door, especially when a competing brand runs perfectly straight out of the box. So when you bring in a used Kimber, don't expect a warm welcome. Expect a lowball offer or a flat decline, because the shop knows it will have to talk a buyer through the same doubts you just heard. And most shops would rather skip that conversation entirely. Number 11. Kel-Tec pistols and shotguns. Kel-Tec built a reputation on clever design and low prices. Their guns look different from anything else on the shelf, and that's part of the appeal. The company keeps releasing bold new ideas that other manufacturers simply won't try. But that same reputation carries a warning label. Search any firearms forum for Kel-Tec, and you'll find years of complaints about failures to feed, failures to eject, and parts that wear out faster than they should. The Kel-Tec KSG shotgun is a perfect example. Reviewers call it one of the smartest shotgun designs in decades. Then in the same breath, they bring up Kel-Tec's well-earned reputation for questionable reliability. Magazines are proprietary too, meaning you can't swap in a mag from another brand if yours gives you trouble, which limits your options the moment something goes wrong. Some gun shop owners have openly told customers they won't stock Kel-Tec at all because of reliability concerns, even when customers specifically ask for the brand by name. When a dealer won't even sell a gun new, they're certainly not excited to take one back used. If you own a Kel-Tec, understand that its resale value depends heavily on which dealer you ask, and many will simply pass rather than take the risk. Number 10. Springfield Hellcat exploded in popularity as a tiny concealed carry pistol with a big magazine capacity. On paper, it looks like the perfect everyday carry gun. But a serious problem started showing up in owner reports. Multiple firearms channels documented a trigger that can lock up completely if you press it slightly off-center. In a calm situation, that's confusing. In a self-defense situation, that could be deadly. Springfield has never issued an official recall for this trigger issue, and newer production runs seem to have improved. But the damage to buyer confidence already happened. Several independent reviewers, including channels dedicated entirely to testing carry guns, called on Springfield to address the flaw directly. Add in scattered reports of magazine feeding issues with certain ammo types, and you have a gun that sounds great in marketing but makes dealers nervous in practice. Springfield also has history here. Their earlier XDS model needed an actual safety recall after reports of the gun firing when a round was simply being chambered, and some units even doubled or tripled when fired. That history follows the brand. Dealers remember it, even when customers don't. and that memory shapes how much they're willing to offer for a used Hellcat sitting on their counter today. Number 9. Taurus GX4 and similar compact models. Taurus has spent years trying to rebuild trust after one of the largest handgun recalls in American history. In 2018, the company agreed to a settlement covering about 1 million pistols, after claims that certain models could fire when dropped, even with the safety on. That recall cost the company $239 million. Fast forward to 2023, and a new class action targets the Taurus GX4, alleging the same kind of drop-fire defect all over again. For a company already working to repair its image, that's a brutal repeat. Taurus firearms are known for being affordable, and that price point brings in a lot of first-time buyers. But affordability means nothing if a dealer sees drop-fire allegations attached to your exact model. Gun shops that specialize in used firearms often run each trade-in through a defect and recall check before they even name a price. A Taurus with a history like this either gets a rock-bottom offer or gets turned away so the shop doesn't have to deal with the liability of reselling it. Even Taurus owners who've never had a single problem with their own gun are feeling the effect, because dealers price the whole model line based on the worst case, not on your specific pistol. Number 8. Remington Model 700 with original Walker trigger. This one goes back further than most people realize, and it's a big reason dealers now check trigger history before accepting any older Remington. The Model 700 rifle used a trigger design from 1948 called the Walker trigger. For decades, reports surfaced of these rifles firing without anyone touching the trigger, some connected to serious injuries and deaths. Internal company documents later showed Remington's own engineers flagged a possible unsafe condition even before the rifle went on sale. The company always denied the trigger was defective. But in 2014, facing a massive class action, Remington agreed to retrofit around 7.5 million rifles with a new trigger design, free of charge. That number alone tells you how widespread the concern was. Here's the catch for anyone holding one today. Investigations after the settlement found that some repaired rifles still misfired under certain conditions. If you own an older Model 700, or similar Remington models like the Sportsman 78 or the Model 7, and the trigger has never been serviced, most dealers will not touch it. The ones that do will insist on a trigger inspection first, and that inspection often kills the deal completely. Even a rifle that's been in your family for decades, one that's never misfired a single time, carries the same red flag the moment a dealer checks the serial number against the recall list. Number 7. SIG Sauer P320. No gun on this list carries more legal weight right now than the SIG Sauer P320. This pistol won a massive military contract in 2017 and became one of the best-selling handguns in the country. It's also become one of the most sued. As of 2026, the P320 faces more than 100 lawsuits. 2 separate juries have already ruled the design defective. A Georgia jury awarded $2.35 million in 2024. A Philadelphia jury went even further, awarding $1 million in compensatory damages and $10 million in punitive damages, though the punitive portion was later reduced. Then came a first-of-its-kind move. In October 2025, the New Jersey Attorney General sued SIG Sauer directly, seeking a mandatory recall and a full sales ban in the state. That lawsuit points to the death of a 20-year law enforcement veteran whose P320 allegedly discharged while he was simply cleaning it. Major police departments have already reacted. Houston PD, Chicago PD, and Washington State have all pulled the P320 from active duty. SIG maintains the gun cannot fire without the trigger being pulled and points to nearly 20 dismissed cases as proof. No recall has been ordered by any court as of today, but dealers don't wait for courts. Gun shop owners on firearms forums openly admit their trade value on a P320 sits at 0. One shop still sells old stock, but only after warning every buyer about the ongoing controversy first. That warning alone kills most sales, which is exactly why trade-in offers on this gun have collapsed. Even owners who completed the voluntary trigger upgrade back in 2017 aren't fully in the clear, since reports of discharges in already upgraded pistols keep showing up in the ongoing litigation. Number 6. High-point firearm. High-point pistols are not defective. That needs to be said clearly, because this entry works differently than the others on this list. High-point actually backs every gun with a lifetime warranty, no questions asked, and the company has a loyal following of buyers who love the price point. A brand new High-point can cost a fraction of what other pistols sell for. But that same low price becomes a trap the moment you try to sell it used. Dealers know High-point guns are heavy, built from cast metal, and were never designed with resale value in mind. A used High-point often isn't worth much more than scrap value to a shop, because a new one sells for barely more than what a used one would cost anyway. Why would a customer buy your used High-point for $150 when a brand new one with a full warranty sits right next to it for $180? That math doesn't work for dealers, so most either offer next to nothing or decline the trade entirely. This isn't about safety. It's about a business simply not being able to make money reselling something this affordable brand new. If you're holding a High-point and hoping for a big trade-in number, save yourself the trip and sell it privately instead. Where buyers care more about the price tag than the shop's profit margin. Number 5. Discontinued Ring of Fire pistols. If you've never heard the term Ring of Fire, it refers to a group of small handgun makers that operated out of Southern California decades ago, including names like Jennings, Brico, and Lorson. These companies built cheap handguns from zinc alloy and sold them by the hundreds of thousands. One of those companies, Brico Arms, ended up in a lawsuit after a defective gun left a 7-year-old boy paralyzed. The company lost a $21 million judgment and declared bankruptcy the very next day. The factory later got sold to its own foreman, who restarted production under a new name. That company eventually lost its federal license too. Here's why this matters to you right now. If you or a family member owns one of these old Ring of Fire pistols, you're holding a gun with almost no part support, no active manufacturer warranty, and a well-documented history of safety failures. Most dealers won't even list these for sale, let alone accept one in trade. If you find one in a drawer or a safe, understand that its resale path is basically private sale only. And even then, buyers who know the history will steer clear. These pistols were built from a soft zinc alloy called Zamak, the same cheap material several of these companies leaned on to keep prices low, and decades later, that material is exactly why so many of them no longer function safely at all. Number 4. Older Taurus revolvers from the Rossi settlement. Separate from the pistol recall, Taurus faced another major legal issue tied to certain Rossi-branded revolvers made between 2005 and 2017. A federal judge approved a $38 million settlement after claims that these revolvers could discharge simply from being dropped, even while safely holstered. The defect centered on the internal safety mechanism failing to do its one job, block the firing pin during impact. As part of that settlement, owners got the option of a free repair, a replacement, or compensation. But plenty of these revolvers are still out there unrepaired, sitting in closets and gun safes with owners who never filed a claim. If that's you, listen closely. An unrepaired revolver from this settlement is considered a documented safety risk by the same legal standard Taurus agreed to in court. Dealers who check serial numbers against recall databases, and reputable ones do, will flag your revolver immediately. Repaired units generally hold value fine. Unrepaired ones often get refused outright because no shop wants to resell a gun tied to an active safety settlement without proof it was fixed. If you're not sure whether your revolver falls into this group, the model numbers and production years are still listed publicly, and checking takes just a few minutes before you ever walk into a shop. Number 3. Discontinued or orphaned gun models every year. Manufacturers quietly discontinue certain models, sometimes without much announcement at all. When that happens, something important disappears along with the gun itself: factory support. No more replacement parts through the manufacturer. No more warranty service. If a spring breaks or a part wears out, you're now relying on aftermarket parts or a gunsmith who happens to have old stock lying around. Dealers hate taking in orphaned models for exactly this reason. If a customer buys a used gun and something breaks in 6 months, the shop becomes responsible for solving a problem the manufacturer walked away from. That risk isn't worth it for most stores, especially smaller ones running on tight margins. Before you assume your gun still has strong trade-in value, check if it's still in current production. A quick search of the manufacturer's website will tell you fast. If your exact model isn't listed anymore, you're likely holding an orphaned gun, and that changes every conversation you have with a dealer from this point forward. Some orphaned guns still hold decent value if they're well-known and well-built. Number 2. Guns tied to active false advertising claims. This one catches people off guard because it has nothing to do with how the gun functions. It has everything to do with what the company said about it. SIG Sauer ran a major marketing campaign in 2025 declaring the P320 controversy over, using the slogan, "It ends today," and stating flatly that the pistol cannot fire without a trigger pull. That campaign became a centerpiece of the New Jersey Attorney General's lawsuit, which specifically cited that marketing language as misleading. When a manufacturer's own advertising becomes evidence in a state lawsuit, every dealer selling that product gets nervous. It's no longer just a product question, it's a legal exposure question. Shops that stock guns connected to active false advertising claims are watching the story develop just like everyone else, and many are choosing to sit on the sidelines rather than take in trades tied to unresolved litigation. Number 1. Any gun caught in the 2026 market flood. Here's the biggest reason of all, and it has nothing to do with any single gun on this list. It's the market itself. The firearms industry is sitting on a massive amount of unsold inventory heading into the second half of 2026. Years of heavy buying created a boom, and that boom is now over. NICS background checks, the main way experts track gun sales, have been softening. Manufacturers are openly guiding investors to expect flat or declining sales this year. That combination creates a serious problem for dealers. Warehouses full of guns, nobody's buying fast enough. Industry analysts expect the used gun market to get flooded even further over the next 6 to 12 months as this extra inventory works its way into secondary sales. What does that mean for your trade-in? Simple supply and demand. When a shop already has 10 of the same rifles sitting on the rack, your 11th one isn't worth much to them, no matter how clean it looks. Some dealers are reportedly offering only about 50% of resale value right now, well below the 70 to 75% that used to be standard.